Today we're going to learn how to solve a 3x3 system. Instead of using elimination or substitution, we're going to use technology to solve it with a calculator. So let's say I've been given this 3x3. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a matrix so that the computer can help use it. And when you turn this thing into the matrix, you have three parts to this problem. The first thing you have is your coefficient matrix. That's where we're going to put all our numbers. So we're going to have our coefficient matrix. The next thing that you're going to have is you're going to have your variable matrix. This is where we're going to put all the variables, and that's going to be equal to our constant matrix, where we're going to put all our numbers that it's equal to. So let's go through and fill out our coefficient matrix. Well, that's going to be 5. There's a 1 in front of my y, and there's a -4 in front of my z. There is no x for this one, so I'm going to put 0 for x, -3 for y, and -6 for z. For my x, I'm going to put a -1 there. For my y, I'm going to put a -1. For my z, I'm going to put a -1. And my variables for this will be x, y, and z. And then for my constant matrix, I'm going to put in my answers over there, which will be -4, -21, and 6. Now this is my matrix. We can essentially think of this as like a problem like 2x equals 10. And when you think about solving this, you divide by 2. We're going to do the same thing in this case, but since matrices don't have division, we're going to use what we call inverses. So we're going to say we're going to take the inverse of this side and put it with the inverse of this side. Now we haven't learned how to take the inverse of a 3x3, and it would actually take a while for us to do that. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use a graphing calculator. So I'm going to pull up my graphing calculator. And you can see on my graphing calculator I have all these nice buttons. If you look right here by the x inverse button right on that sine, cosine, tangent line, there's this word that says matrix. We're going to hit second and then matrix. And then we're going to go over to edit. And we're going to edit that first matrix. Our matrix A is a 3x3. And so then we're just going to fill in that 3x3 matrix. Whoops. So we're going to just fill in that 3x3 matrix. -6, and then -1, -1, and -1. Whoops, -1. Okay, so I've now filled in that 3x3 matrix. I'm going to hit second quit when I'm done. And now we have this matrix to fill in. So I'm going to say second matrix. We're going to go over to B. And then this is a 3x1. So we're going to fill that in, which this is -4, -20, whoops, -21, and then -6. Second quit again. And if you think about what's going to happen here on this thing, is this is going to cancel, and so we're going to have our x, or our variable matrix, equal A inverse times this matrix right here. So that's what we're going to do on the calculator. We're going to do A inverse times that matrix, which we on the calculator called this matrix B. So I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to hit second matrix and pull up matrix A. I'm going to take the inverse of it, which is right underneath that matrix button. I'm going to go second matrix and go to matrix B. I'm going to hit enter there. And there is my answer. The answer for the matrix I was looking for was 5, -5, and 6. If you think about that as x, y, and z, we now know that x is 5, y is -5, and z is 6. Let's do one more problem like this. Again, for this problem, my first step is going to be putting it into the different matrices. So we're going to throw this into the matrix. So we'll get 36, 6, and 6. For this one, we'll get 12, 0, because we have no y's in this case, and 6. And then 18, negative 6, and 6, times our variable matrix, which will be x, y, and z again. And that'll equal our constant matrix, which is negative 1, negative 3, and negative 1. Again, we'll just plug these things in the calculator. So I'm going to go to second matrix. Whoops. I'm going to go over to edit. Now I'm going to fill in this matrix. And I'm going to go to second quit after I finished that matrix. I'll go to second matrix again. I'll go over and fill in matrix B. Whoops, it needs to be a negative 1. Okay, and then I'll go to second quit again. Again, we're going to type in the same thing. We're going to go matrix A, inverse, matrix B, for the same reasons as before, because what we want to do is we want to take the inverse of this side and the inverse of this side. This side will cancel out. We'll get x, and then this will give me my answer. So let's see what our answer is in this case. Came out to be some decimals, which is okay for us to have happen. Now it is okay for that to have happen, that we get decimals. There was one tiny mistake when I wrote this in there. As you can see, I have a negative 6 here, and that's a positive 6, so that will throw your matrix off. So if you have any kind of issues, you want to go back and try to fix it. So I should have put this as a negative 6. We'll throw that in there. Now when I put that in, I will still get decimals, but they're a little bit nicer because you get 0, negative 1/3, and negative a half. So when you make your matrices, the process is not too hard. The biggest thing that you want to do is make sure you've typed in the matrices correctly, and then you throw it in your calculator and you let your calculator do most of the work. I would recommend having one of these graphing calculators. I can get you one on the computer like I have, but it obviously takes a little bit of practice to get used to, and the actual graphers are a little bit better. And if you're going to take the SAT or ACT, these things are pretty powerful. So try the different problems today.